Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this timely and most important conversation. I'm Paula Dobriansky. I'm on the board of the Atlantic Council and also on the advisory council of the Adrienne Arche Latin America Center. And on behalf of the Atlantic Council's Adrienne Arche Latin America Center, Global Energy Center, Adrienne Arche herself, and also the Rockefeller Foundation, it really is a pleasure to welcome you to hear our Minister Correa, who is Colombia's Minister of Environment and Sustainability. We know that Minister Correa actually has become a reference point and an example for his very constructive work that he has done while he was mayor of Bogota. And we want to thank you and congratulate you, Minister, for being here today, because you have made so many important strides to protect Colombia's natural resources. We look forward to learning more about Colombia's efforts to protect the environment, and especially the Amazon rainforest, which is vital for stabilizing global climate. With deforestation, illegal mining, and wildfires at an 11-year high, Amazon protection is an urgent call to action. Environmental protection in Colombia is also of strategic importance to the United States, given its interconnectedness with the fight against illegal mining, drug trafficking, and transnational organized crime. At the Atlantic Council, through the Adrienne Arche Latin America Center's U.S.-Colombia Task Force, we have as a high priority the bilateral relationship and ways in which we can explore new chapters and opportunities to advance it. And Mr. Minister, your work on environmental sustainability is certainly one additional area for common ground with the United States. I am also very pleased to welcome former chair of the White House Council on Environmental Quality and senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Center, George Frampton, who will moderate the conversation. George, a climate policy expert, is uniquely positioned to lead this discussion. Thank you so much, Minister, for joining us, and thank you so much, George, for moderating today's discussion. Now let me turn it over to you, and welcome to everyone viewing in.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you, Minister Correa, for joining us today, and welcome all of you who are watching from afar. Colombia, many people don't realize Colombia has some of the richest and most important forest resources in the world, certainly in Latin America, including an enormous buffer area into the Amazonian rainforest. And the government of Colombia has really been a leader, pioneered in forest preservation programming since 2015, 2016, mounted a very ambitious and multifaceted program, secured financing from Norway and the UK, and hopefully now from the United States, wants to expand that program and has been something of a model, potentially for other forested countries. So I've basically just asked the minister to start our conversation by outlining the priorities of the program today and what he sees as the biggest challenges, the barriers to expanding it and making it successful. Minister?
Well, thank you, George. Thank you, Paula, for the presentation. I know you are such as a friend, a big friend to Colombia. And thank you to Atlantic Council for having me here today. As you say, George, Colombia has big challenges. I would like to start telling you that last December, President Duque made a big announcement, our NDCs, our National Determined Contributions. We are reducing by 2030, 51% of our greenhouses emissions. So it's a big challenge, as I told you before. I think it's our main priority, not only in our government, but also thinking about 10 and 20 years ahead. We have a big priority now is the fight against deforestation. 2017 was the highest deforestation year in our history. 219,000 hectares were deforested. Then President Duque initiate his period in 2018 and create a National Council of Fight Against Deforestation. And in 2018, we decreased 19% that number. Then the next year, 10%. 2020 was a hard year for all of us. And we have a growth of 8% in deforestation in Colombia. But the good news is that this year, 2021, we decreased already 30%.
Wow.
30% of deforestation in the Amazonia in Colombia. And we hope by the end of the year, we can reduce 50%. And our goal is to have zero deforestation by 2030. So it's a big challenge. 33% of the emissions are generated from deforestation. So it's a very big challenge, George. And I was telling, as I was telling you before, it's a big fight. We are working with military forces. We have an operation called Artemisa. We already had 10 operations to control more than 15,000 hectares. What I can tell you is that that's a national security strategy against deforestation. But at the same time, we are restoring 300,000 hectares. We are conserving 600,000 hectares in different regions in our country.
You're planting a lot of trees.
We have a big challenge that is to plant 180 million trees by 2022. At the same time that we are fighting against deforestation. And the most important thing, George, is that we are doing this with the people, with the communities, because this is a challenge that is not only for the country, but for us, for the people. So we're working with the different communities, indigents, farmers, and people in the Amazonia. We have different tools like conservation contracts with the families, pay for environmental service, environmental education. That's what we're doing to stop deforestation and at the same time to conserve what is important for us. George, 52% of Colombia is covered by forest. And 66% of our forest is in the Amazonia.
Mm-hmm. How do you, as your program is really designed to bring economic development to small communities, forested communities, you're trying to do that at the same, that's an integral part of forest preservation. But does that sometimes come in conflict with, how do you work to get the support of the communities not to do illegal deforestation?
Well, can you imagine how many jobs can you create planting 180 million trees? A lot of jobs that we are creating. So when people knows that he can work with the forest and obtain money or income, they will care more about it. So we're working in education with people. 2020 was a very hard year because we couldn't be in the territory for the COVID pandemic. But now we are, with all our teams, we are in the territory, talking to people, teaching, and showing them how can they work with the forest, with the biodiversity, and that how can we pay them to conserve biodiversity and forest. So I think it's a process, and people is understanding that we have to care and protect. Well, Colombia is the second biodiverse country in the world, so we have to protect it.
You've been here this week visiting having meetings with some nonprofits, but also with U.S. government officials, new Biden administration folks. How has the reception been, and what is it that you really need? What can the U.S. do to help you?
Well, we've had a very good agenda this week. I had some meetings with nonprofit organizations. I've been with ICCF, WWF, Conservación Internacional, among others. And tomorrow we'll be having a meeting with Jonathan Pershing from John Kerry's office. So I'll tell you tomorrow how it goes. but there's something good happening. The United States is back in the Paris Agreement. And that's good not only for the United States, but for all our countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. We already are working with different sectors in the United States, different organizations, as USAID, for example, that are very good allies of Colombia. And I hope we can strengthen the relationships for the future now that the United States is back in the Paris Agreement.
Well, Jonathan Pershing was an important funder of the development of policy on forest preservation from the Hewlett Foundation. He's been at this for 20 years or more. And as you know, the US, Norway, the UK, and a number of companies and banks just announced in the last few months a new financing accelerator program, making a commitment of hopefully at least $1 billion to increase the kinds of programs that you've put in place, where the government is really key to this, committed to both rural development and forest preservation. For other countries that are looking or behind you, are looking to try to develop a countrywide program and take advantage of what new financing may be available from richer countries, what advice would you give someone who's behind you looking to build a program like yours?
Well, we have very good allies in Norway, as you said, UK, Germany, that are financing a big program in Colombia. It's called Visión Amazonía. And it's looking forward to stop deforestation in the next years. USAID is working with us too, with the communities, but I hope that now, after these meetings, we can get more financing for this kind of programs. Definitely, Colombia has a leadership in the region. President Duque in 2019 launched a big program called Leticia Pact that is looking for a better social development for the people in the Amazonia Colombiana. It's looking to stop deforestation, get better income for the people, and there's a big compromise, not only from Colombia, but Peru, Brazil, Bolivia, Suriname, and Colombia. So it's a very nice program. We have leadership on that area. And what I always tell my colleagues, minister of other countries, is that we have to be in the same compromise that we have. It's the same Amazonia. It's the same Amazonia. It's the same air we breathe. And we have to work together. The Amazonia is a system. We are all part of this system. And we have to do it together. So we have to move fast. Climate change is a reality. It's not something that maybe will happen or could happen. It's a reality. And now, not only us, children, companies are thinking about it. And we have to be faster than where we were before.
Fast, yes, I'm afraid to say. Well, as you say, the forest preservation and stopping deforestation is a big component of your very ambitious NDC, 55% reduction.
51.
51%.
Yeah. Europe said 55
51%.
yesterday.
Yesterday. Well, but let's see where they come out.
Yeah.
Another big component of your commitment is dealing with coal power and substituting less polluting ways of generating electricity. That's a challenge too, isn't it?
Well, it's a big challenge. Minister of Energy is working on it, that energy transition, that Colombia have a leadership in the region too. We have many priorities in these different areas. Energy transition, sustainable mobility. You asked me something about agriculture, sustainable agriculture too. Environmental education. The big alliance of protecting the páramos, water, and of course, deforestation and conservation. So the energetic transition is one of our priorities for Colombia.
So you mentioned before we started today a new program in restoring corals.
Yeah.
So this is not exactly on the forest subject, but I'm fascinated. I'd love to have you just say a few words about that.
Well, it sounds it sounds strange.
Very new thing.
People ask me, what? How do you restore corals? 2 weeks ago, we launched a program with Conservation International. We are going to restore 200 hectares in the Caribbean and Pacific coast in Colombia, and we are going to restore 1 million corals. And we already started. This is a program for 2 years, and it's a beautiful program.
And how do you do it?
Well, you want me to explain how to do it?
Yes.
Well, it's a technique called fragmentation. So you fragment the corals and then go to how do you say, like a kindergarten, guarderías, like nursery.
Yeah.
Yeah. You take the fragmentation, take the pieces of corals, go to a nursery on the ocean, and after 12 months, you just go and plant the corals on the reefs. Well, it's more technical, no? I don't.
But this is completely new process.
Yeah, it's new. I think it's the biggest initiative in restoration of corals in the world.
And you mentioned agriculture. We talked about that before. To what extent does promoting sustainable agriculture in a forested area for local economic development conflict with trying to preserve the forest? How do you integrate those two things?
Well, we are working with the Minister of Agriculture too in this. We're working in credits for sustainable development in agriculture. I think when people have money to finance their projects, they can think different. So with the minister, we're working in different areas, better credits for people. We are working in proyectos silvopastoriles. Silvopastoriles, it's ganadería sostenible. And environmental education. Farmers have to learn that conserve and having sustainable projects have better profits. So the environmental education in all the sectors is very important, and we are doing it together.
You've said, and we talked earlier, that illegal logging is one of the huge challenges here, maybe the biggest single challenge. What are the tools that you found work or don't work? What are the tools that you use? Is this a law enforcement problem? Is it a rural economic development problem? How do you go about dealing with illegal logging?
George, 7% of the deforestation is caused by illegal crops, cocaine, 7%. And if you go 1 mile around the deforestation spots, 25% of the deforestation is 1 mile around these spots. So illegal drugs are directly related to deforestation or environmental crimes. 2 weeks ago, we had a bill approved for, it's called the Environmental Crimes Bill. Deforestation is a crime now in Colombia, and it gives jail from 5 to 15 years. And not only people who is deforesting, but people who is financing and promoting deforestation. Species traffic, illegal species traffic, it's a crime now in Colombia. Illegal land taking, it's a crime too, and you have jail from 5 to 11 years. And this is a very powerful tool now, because before a people or an organization or an illegal organization that was deforesting just paid like a multa, like a bill, and he was free. Now he goes to jail from 5 to 15 years. The Artemisa campaign with the military forces to take control of the areas, it's a very important tool to do that. But the most important thing is creating new jobs for these people, reduce poverty.
I'm not sure that a lot of people understand the extent to which the illegal drug production and deforestation, illegal logging and deforestation are linked. But that's a major challenge. But what you're saying is basically job creation and environmental education are the two principal tools in addition to law enforcement.
But George, they are linked directly. Drugs and illegal business with deforestation. You know, George, deforest 1 hectare cost around $800. Who's financing that? Of course, the illegal business, drugs, illegal mining. And that's why we are working with Ministry of Defense, but agriculture, energy, and of course, all the social work with the government.
Well, in terms of environmental education and consciousness on the part of the public about the importance of preserving forests, reforestation. I happened to notice in connection with getting ready to talk to you that the Colombian Supreme Court has recognized the forest as an asset. And I was fascinated by that because in the 1960s, environmentalists in the United States were thrilled when Justice William Douglas on the US Supreme Court wrote a very dissenting opinion saying that he thought trees should have standing to bring lawsuits. It didn't have to be the Sierra Club. It was a case in which the Sierra Club was a party. But the trees should actually be able to be the plaintiffs in lawsuits. So I hadn't seen another Supreme Court in another country that seemed to actually recognize that, as parties speaking for the people, but for the world, that the trees themselves should be able to participate in litigation. What do you see? What are the primary goals of expanding the program? I think we just have a couple more minutes, but I'm interested to see how you see the next couple of years and what are the big areas of expansion of your forest preservation program?
Well, we have to work on the planting of 180 million trees, not only for this government. We have to create capacities to live for the state to continue planting trees. Of course, we're not talking about just planting. We're talking about restoring ecosystems, right? But people need to understand why should we plant trees? So planting 180 million trees is a big challenge for us. Colombia has never had a plan like this before. So for planting, you need land, plants, and people.
And trained people, so those are going to be good jobs.
Trained people. So the
as we learned
biggest
in
challenge
the United States
for the next year is to have trained people to do that. Train organizations to continue doing that. We have the land, we have the plants, we always need more financing, more money, but we need to educate people and live better trained people.
Who does the training? Is it universities? Is it nonprofits that are, is it a government nonprofit partnership?
Well, we are working with nonprofits. We are working with universities. We are working with government institutes and different corporations. That's how we are doing it. But we need to be, as I told you before, faster in this, because it's like today you said, we are going to plant 180 million trees. What's the first question for everyone? How are you going to do that? So it's a big challenge. We already planted 64 million. We hope by the end of the year, we have planted 120 million trees. And for the next year, 180 million.
Well, I want to say good luck, but that's not, but I should probably say thank you for such a ambitious and important effort, program, goal. And the idea of training people to do that and financing it is quite exciting, actually. So thank you very much for being here today, for your very important work for Colombia's leadership and your own personal leadership. And I hope that those of you who have been watching will take this to heart, and thank you on behalf of the Minister and the Atlantic Council for all of you. I hope this was an interesting conversation. Have a good day.